The process of me reacting to you not being easily won over makes me feel insecure. And like I said, people tend to fall in love with people who create some sense of insecurity. And nothing creates more insecurity than
like a boss.
if you look back at the dark ages of dating, you'll notice that there were a lot of obstacles for a man to get some poom poom and for a woman to get married, right? As a man, you just couldn't holler at a girl, at a prehistoric chick, and just say, "Hey, girl, what's your number, right? What's your geolocation, something like that, right?" No, a guy had to win over the family, right? A guy had to win over the dad, the mom, the siblings, the whole family, the whole shebang bang. And then the guy had to give the family a goat, a few cows. There was a lot of work. There was a lot of investment just to get married with a woman, right? And that job, that work, going out of his way and doing all of that, walking around and wooing, created an emotional attachment that the guy felt like he won her over. So humans had a societal structure through religion and whatnot that allowed them to not be easily won over because of society, the structure. Dad, mom was there, right? You gotta give my woman this, my daughter this and that, right? And so people didn't need to act, you as a person and the individual didn't need to act hard to get because of that. Because there were just so many restraints around you that you naturally played hard to get, even though you didn't want to do that. But because we don't have that no more, we have to do it consciously and play this game. Because before, the society created those structures so that you didn't need to play the game. Now for women at that time, the women, even though she wanted his holy dizzy, right? She had to act coy. She had to act like she has chastity. And above all, she had to act like she has self-constraint. So because of that, even though she wanted the guy, she had to act like she was choosing her options. She had to act with some dignity, royalness, not get too needy, right? Be more distant. In fact, her family used to coach her. And the way that they coached her was very simple. Her family didn't tell her, double text him. The family didn't tell her, "Oh, he's just sad. Go hit him up," right? Show some support even though he's pulling away. No. The family said, "Let him come to you." The family said, "You're worth this price, 3 or 4 goats, and you're not gonna be with him until he gives you that." In other words, they were coaching their daughters to not be easily won over, because it was a negotiation. They were negotiating prices, and it naturally came with negotiation strategies where you don't act like you want it so badly, where you act like you have more than you really have, where you act like you're willing to walk away. Your parents used to do that for you and used to represent you. All you had to do was just be there and smile, right? And guys had to do that similar thing to her. So the guy had to woo the woman more. The woman had to act like she was more relaxed, like she didn't want it as much as she wanted it, right? Because as the guy, if she acted like she wanted it real bad, you could just lower the price. I'm not gonna give you 3 goats for her. I'm gonna give you 2 goats for her, man. Come on, man. These are some good prehistoric prices. And because of that, it created an attachment between the person and the other person that just isn't comparable today. Why? Because the culture today is just so easy to meet each other. There are people watching us. So there are people. People are not watching us as much as before. So the woman tends to behave when she knows that her family members are observing her deeply. But when she goes to a new city, new country, nobody's watching her. So that self-constraint goes away because she doesn't feel the judgment of others, right? And because of those social structures that we have lost, because we have became more progressive, we lost religion, there are some rituals that we had in culture that force people to try harder. It causes people to lower each other's prices. Women lower their prices and men try less, right? And what tends to happen? Yes, it means more action, right? The holy movement, right? But also it devalues each other because we're so accessible. We do it with so many people relative to before that each person we meet has less value simply because there's just more options, especially if it's online. And that's problematic. That's problematic because we internalize this, especially with online dating. When there's so many options, people treat us like an option. And if you're only online, you're gonna internalize that, and you gotta realize you are your ugliest online, right? So let's talk about this, right? So remember, people fall in love with you when you're not easily attainable simply because we've been wired to be more difficult. Everything was more difficult back then. So we're wired to value what's difficult. The problem is that people don't have a need for that, or they don't see the need for it. So let me tell you why, right? What you want to be able to do to prevent this from happening, right? To make it more difficult, because at the end of the day, this takes self-constraint. The only reason why we did it before was because we had family members looking over us. And as a guy, simply because there were barriers between her and between us and the poom poom we went. There was barriers between us and her. So we had to, like, when the dad is there as a guy, you think I'm gonna go up to dad like this? Father Tyrone? No, I'm gonna go up like put this, hey, be more polite. You're gonna notice that the presence of her family will make the guy more romantic, right? But also as a guy, the woman's restraint, the woman's self-control makes me try harder, right? And then and the other thing about this is the fact that I'm trying so hard makes me like her more. That's just how that works. And this works in the opposite as well, right? Where I'm not easily impressed by you. I'm not that easily won over by you. Just because you look so attractive, right? Doesn't mean that what else do you have to offer, right? Because back then, women not only were good looking, even still today, but also they had to develop skills, right? And so women back then had a lot to offer when it came to the fit-in gender roles. So I want to be able to talk about how you guys can replicate this in this modern society, right? So remember, don't allow your fantasies to make a conclusion about this person, all right? Anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys want to work with me one-on-one, go to myforattraction.org, or else I'm closing the channel.